quieting everybody down. Okay, I think we are ready to go. Okay, everybody. We are here. Good to see everybody. So we're going to get started, and as we usually do, we're going to chant Jai Radha Madhava. Alrighty. Okay, I was just working out another song. I hope you all didn't mind that. Just working out the Tulsi song. Tulsi Krishna. Hey Hamilasi Radha Krishna Seva Pava Hey Hamilasi. Okay, sorry about that one. This is working out some chords. Okay, supposed to chant Jai Radha Madhava. Sorry about that one. Prabhus. Hare Krishna. Oh yeah, you can hear me. Just Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihare Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihare Vichana Panava Jai Kini Vadodare Jaya Kini Vadodare Vichana Panava Jaya Kini Vadodare Kini Vadodare Yasoda Nandana Jaya Vajjana Nandana Yasoda Nandana Vajjana Nandana Yamuna Tiramana Charina Kunja Beade Jaya Kunja Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Kunja Beade Jaya Kunja Beade Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Beade Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Beade Vichana Janapanapa Jaya Girivarudare Jaya Girivarudare Yasodanandana Jaya Vajajanandana Yasodanandana Vajajanandana Yamuna Tiramanachari Jaya Kunjaviyadi Kunjaviyadi Yamuna Tiramanachari Jaya Kunjaviyadi Kunjaviyadi Jaya Randamadhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Ranga Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidakacharya also Teta Sitashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Say Go. Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sidvaita Kadad. Shivasani Gaur. Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath. Jai Mukund Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturadam Ki Jai Jagadavasami Ki Jai Yamunamari Ki Jai Shrimati Lasideva Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale. Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi. Gauramani Pracharane Nivashesha Shunyabadi. Paschatya Deja Tarane. So, Om Gana Timidanda Shagananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Urmilitam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. We offer our respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of our spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while we were blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So, we're going to continue with our reading of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. Incidentally, this Thursday here in the United States, which is Friday, for those of you in Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, it's the appearance day of Sri Advaita Acharya. And next Thursday, in Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, it's the appearance day of Lord Nityananda, and the internet is unstable. Let me just set up my alternative internet in case there's a problem. Okay, back to work. So, little announcement. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. All right. And I am going to share my screen. I'm so compassionate. I'm even sharing my screen with all of you. Pretty good. Okay. Okay, share the screen. I guess everything else is set up. Whoops, I think that's the wrong screen. Hold on a second. Back to the drawing board. Yeah, I shared the wrong screen with you all. Here. There's a picture of me on my website, actually. Here we go. Right screen. Okay, just get set up. Right. 1 second. 1 little second. Okay, that's good for that. And that's good for that. Oh, that makes sense. All right. Here we go. Text 13 of the 10th chapter of Adi Lila Caitanya Caritamrta, which is translated by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada and commented on by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada and written originally by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Acharya Ratnera Nama Sri Chandrasekhara Yanragare Devi Bhave Nachila Ishvara. Acharya Ratna was also named Chandrasekhara Acharya in a drama in his house. Lord Caitanya played the goddess of fortune. So, purport, dramatic performances were enacted during the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but the players who took part in such dramas were all pure devotees. No outsiders were allowed. The members of ISKCON should follow this example. Now, okay. This is what Prabhupada explains. Whenever they stage dramatic performances about the lives of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Krishna, the players must be pure devotees. Professional players and dramatic actors have no sense of devotional service, and therefore, although they can perform very artistically, there is no life in such performances. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to refer to such an actor as Yatra Dhale Narda, which means farcical, Narda. Sometimes an actor in a drama plays the part of Narada Muni, although in his private life is not at all like Narada Muni because he is not a devotee. Such actors are not needed in such dramatic performances about the lives of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Krishna. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to perform dramas with the duet of Prabhu, Srivas Thakur, and other devotees in the house of Chandrasekhara. The place where Chandrasekhara's house was situated is now known as Vrajapatana. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur established a branch of his Sri Chaitanya Math at this place. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to accept, of course, this is the Chaitanya Math or the Gaudiya Math, which has the samadhi of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to accept the renounced order of life, Chandrasekhara Acharya was informed of this by Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and he therefore was present when Lord Chaitanya accepted sannyas from Keshava Bharati in Katwa. It is he who first spread the word in Navadvip of Lord Chaitanya's accepting sannyasa. Sri Chandrasekhara Acharya was present during many important incidents in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He therefore forms the second branch of the tree of Lord Chaitanya. Now it's interesting, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would put these plays on, not only were all the devotees pure devotees, or Vishnu Tattva, because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Vishnu Tattva, but everybody who was there was a pure devotee. In fact, they stationed guards at the door or at the entrance of the particular area to make sure that no one could enter who was not a pure devotee. And sometimes that caused a little bit of difficulty. There was one Brahmin one time who wanted to enter and he wasn't allowed to enter. And he got so angry with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, saying that because I have been locked out, I curse you to be locked out of your house. And Lord Chaitanya became very happy at that, and he took sannyas, locked out of his house. And then another time, there was let's say there was a devotee who became very angry at Srivas Thakur. His name was Gopal Chapala. And this Gopal Chapala, he got so angry at Srivas Thakur that he tried to make it seem that Srivas Thakur was worshipping demigods instead of Lord Krishna. And because of that, he got very sick. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu later on forgave him, but that's another story. So, many times there was difficulty because people, another time in Srivas Thakur's house, Srivas Thakur's mother-in-law snuck in and she was hiding behind a curtain, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu couldn't experience the ecstasy that he normally experienced in Kirtan. He said, someone is here who doesn't belong here. And they looked behind the curtain and they found the mother-in-law of Srivas Thakur. They kicked her out, and then there was ecstasy. Another time, Srivas Thakur brought in who he thought was a pure Brahmin who lived just by drinking milk, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not pleased, but the Brahmin surrendered to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then Lord Chaitanya became pleased. There's many different stories of things that happened during these programs that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had. So, as described here, when they did the plays, everyone was a pure devotee. So Prabhupada says here that when we do these plays in ISKCON, everyone has to be a pure devotee. So, does that mean we don't do any plays in ISKCON? Because hard to find pure devotees. And who is going to say, well, I'm qualified to act because I'm a pure devotee? Prabhupada said that all of his disciples are pure devotees. Why? Because those who are actually disciples, what does a disciple mean? Okay, first of all, we have to understand the word disciple. And Prabhupada oftentimes talked about how the word disciple has the same root as discipline. And in Sanskrit, it's very similar. In Sanskrit, the word for disciple is shisha, shishateham, satanam. Anyway, so what does it mean? It comes from the root shash, the shash dhatu. Dhatu means root, of course, and which means discipline. And then you have these words very much connected, like shastra, that means Bhagavatam and different books about Krishna, and devotional service like Nectar Devotion, and shastra, which means the stick. So the disciple is someone who is disciplined by the spiritual master. That's what it means to be a disciple. Now, this word discipline is a heavy word. We don't like that word very much. Like when our mother said, or my mother, you see how I'm using the plural because it was traumatic. If it wasn't traumatic, I would have said when my mother said. But because it's traumatic, I use the plural. When our mother said, I'm going to discipline you. That was it. I had to run away. So we don't like the word discipline, but this discipline is done through love. In other words, by out of or through the mood of love, one disciplines themselves because one is thinking how to please the spiritual master. Just like I get up early in the morning and I go to Mangalarti. And when they think, why do you get up early in the morning? Aren't you ever tired early in the morning? And I say, sure thing. Don't you ever have insomnia at night? I said, sure. Just like everybody else. Especially we have insomnia because of our many disciples who give us insomnia. What do I mean? give us insomnia. They do certain things and we're worried. Oh my God, what's going to happen? What do they say? What is their consciousness like? Where are they? And so you can't sleep when you're in anxiety. Prabhupada also had the similar circumstance. He couldn't sleep when he was in anxiety. So we have insomnia. Yeah, sure. Then we get up. It's like in the army, Krishna's army. Like if you're in the army and the bugle blows, that's like a trumpet that wakes people up in the morning, then what do? You get up. You can't say to the commanding officer, I mean, those who've been in the army would know what I'm talking about. I had insomnia last night. I have a little tummy ache. Oh my God. Not only do you have to get up, you have to make your bed. You have to stand at attention. You have to salute. You have to bathe. All those things early in the morning. Because you have to, you chose to. So that's what it means to be disciplined by the spiritual master. You choose to out of love. You know this will be very pleasing to Krishna. And you know Krishna's everywhere. Krishna is watching you. He's omniscient. Means he sees everything. He's in the heart. Hridesha Arjuna Tishtati. And so that's discipline. And it comes from the self. You know, Krishna's not walking around with a stick. You know, obviously, if you don't follow the rules and regulations, like the 4 regular principles, then you do get the stick. And that stick is called Yamaraj, Yamadanda. Danda means stick. So Yamadanda. So anyway, so you discipline. And that's what makes a disciple. It's not that initiation makes one a disciple. People think like that. Oh, now I'm a disciple. And then they act in any way. Yeah, I'm a disciple. No, you ain't a disciple. Just initiation doesn't mean that you're a disciple. It means you were initiated. That's all. It means you went through a ceremony. That's all. Because disciple means to accept. And so if someone accepts and functions in that capacity, in spite of, you know, the pushings and the pullings, like Rupa Goswami states in the Nectar of Instruction, Bacho Begam, Manasa, Kruda Begam, Jiva Begam, Udara, Pushta Begam. What does that mean? There is pushing from the words. Bah. You have to speak. A motor mouth. What's the difference between someone who speaks too much and a crocodile? Well, the crocodile's strongest muscle is closing the mouth, and someone who has uncontrolled speech, his strongest muscle is opening the mouth. Anyway, so Pacho Vegam, the pushing of the speech, Pacho Vegam, Manasa, the mind, the anger, Kroda Vegam, Jiva, the pushing of the tongue to taste something. Vegam. Udurapata, the belly, taste, eat, and the genitals. So these pushings, one controls them out of love. That's discipline. You discipline your body. Because the body's not a person. The body is just a machine. Yantra, Gudani, Maya. The problem is that many people, they're identifying with the body. So much so. I'm male, I'm female. I am somewhere in between. Like that. But that's not what we are. We are the soul in the body, and we have a certain type of body. Just like you have a certain type of car. And based on the car, you enjoy this or enjoy that. Just like the other day, I got in a car, which shall remain nameless what type of car. And the car was able to do 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. So I had some devotees in the car, and just went, look, boom. And your car may do 0 to 60 in 2.5 minutes. But you're still the same person. But we really concentrate on the car so much. That is the body so much. And we identify with the body. That is our illusion. That's what keeps us in this world. This identification with the car that we're driving. It's really amazing. I mean, try that sometime. Drive around in a real fancy car and see if it doesn't change your consciousness. Today, I had the benediction of driving around a fancy car. And not only, it was actually quite funny, that we went someplace to go shopping for something. Anyway, we were shopping for a carport, not for the car, but for the tractor that we have on the temple. That's my car, a tractor. Anyway, so we have a tractor, big tractor, medium-sized tractor at the temple. So we went shopping for something to cover it up so it doesn't get damaged. And as soon as I pulled up in this fancy car, the person, he offered me so much respect. It was like God had arrived at his dealership. So you see, it's really interesting. The type of body you have influences how other people interact with you and how you feel. We personally experienced that. Really interesting phenomena. One should not get caught up in this. I mean, some people, they have a Volkswagen body, and other people, they have a Mercedes body. Okay, enough funny stuff. So, Pundarika Vijanidi Bhara Shaka Jani. Yanra Nama Lana. Oh, I didn't finish. Oh my God. So I didn't finish talking about the last purport. The Prabhupada said only pure devotee. So pure devotee means anyone who's following strictly. That's how Prabhupada defined it. Sorry. I had to just wind up that complete discussion. Pundarika Vijanidi Vada Shaka Jani. Yanra Nama Lana Prabhu Kana Dila Apani. Pundarik Vijanidi. The third big branch was so dear to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that in his absence, Lord Chaitanya himself would sometimes cry. In the Gauraganda Dashnipika 54, Srila Pundarik Vijanidi is described as the father of Srimati Radharani and Krishna Lila, that's Rishabhanu. And Srimati Radharani is known as Vishubhanu Nandini. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore treated him as his father. Pundarik Vijayanidi's father was known as Baneshwara, or according to another opinion, Shuklambara Brahmachari. Wow. Interesting Brahmachari. And his mother's name was Gangadevi. According to one opinion, Baneshwara was a descendant of Sri Shivarama Gangopadhyaya. The original home of Pundarik Vijanidi was in East Bengal, now Bangladesh, in a village near Dhaka named Bhugial, which belonged to the Virendra group of Brahmana families. Sometimes these Virendra Brahmanas were at odds with another group known as Radhiya Brahmanas, and therefore Pundarik Vijayanidi's family was ostracized and at that time was not living as a respectable family. Wow. It's Pundarik Vijayanidi's appearance day today. I didn't know that. The reason I didn't know that because I've been at GBC meetings during the morning program. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, one of the members of this family is living in Vrindavan and is named Jananda Goswami. One special characteristic of this family is that each of its members had only one son or no son at all, and therefore the family is not very expansive. There's a place in the district of Chattagrama in East Bengal that is known as Hata Hajari, and a short distance from this place is a village known as Mikala Grama, in which Pundarik Vijayanidi's forefathers lived. One can approach Mikala Grama from Chattagrama either on horseback, by bullock cart, or by steamer. The steamer station is known as Annapurnara Gata. The birthplace of Pundarik Vijayanidhi is about 2 miles southwest of Annapurnagata. The temple constructed there by Pundarik Vijayanidhi is now very old and much in need of repair. Without repair, the temple may soon crumble. There are 2 inscriptions on the bricks of that temple, but they are so old that one cannot read them. There's another temple, however, about 200 yards south of this one, and some people say that this is the old temple constructed by Pundarik Vijayanidhi. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu called Pundarik Vijayanidhi father, and he gave him the title of Premanidhi. Pundarik Vijayanidhi later became the spiritual master of Gadadhar Pandit Goswami and an intimate friend of Swarup Damodar's. Gadadhar Pandit at first misunderstood Pundarik Vijayanidhi to be an ordinary pounds and shilling man, but later on, upon being corrected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became his disciple. Another incident in the life of Pundarik Vijayanidhi involves his criticizing the priest of the Jagannath temple, for which Jagannath Prabhu chastised him personally by slapping his cheeks. This is described in the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat Antyakanda, chapter 10. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur informs us that during his time there were still 2 living descendants of the family of Pundarik Vijayanidhi who were named Sri Hara Kumara Smriti Tirtha and Sri Krishna Kinkara Vidyalankara. For further information, one should refer to the dictionary known as Vaishnava Manjusha. So about Pundarik Vijayanidhi, as I said before, he's considered an incarnation of Vrishabhanu, Srimati Radharani's father, and it's an interesting story of how Gadadhar Pandit Goswami took initiation from Pundarik Vijayanidhi. So once upon a time, Pundarik Vijayanidhi was visiting Navadvipa area. And Mukunda, one of the classmates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and also Gadadhar Pandit at that time, were together. And Mukunda said to Gadadhar Pandit, "There's this great devotee, you got to see him. Please, let me take you." And Gadadhar Pandit said, "Yes, let's go see him." So they went to see Pundarik Vijayanidhi. Pundarik Vijayanidhi was living a very opulent life, which is all right for a Vaishnava. One should not judge a Vaishnava externally. One should not judge a Vaishnava according to his gender. One should not, or her gender, or their gender, to be more precise. One should not judge a Vaishnava according to their country. One should not judge a Vaishnava according to their age. One should not judge a Vaishnava according to their color of the skin. That's called hellish intelligence. It's like calling the deity stone or wood. Anyway, so Pundarik Vijayanidhi was seated on a very opulent bedstead, silk sheets, and his hair was combed back and oiled, and he was chewing pan. And Gadadhar Pandit and Mukunda went to see him. And Gadadhar Pandit was thinking, this is an exalted Vaishnava? What? How's that possible? How could he be an exalted Vaishnava? Vaishnavas are renounced from this world. Even if they're householders, they're pretty renounced. They're not driving around in an opulent car. So anyway, what happened is that, or seating on a 4-poster bed with silk sheets and chewing pan. You can imagine someone came to see me and they saw me chewing pan, and my bed had silk sheets, and I was just sitting there lounging back. You might think a few things about me. And I was driving a Cadillac. Anyway, getting back to the story. So Gadadhar Pandit thought, he's not so much of a great devotee, he's a devotee, but he's a pretty materialistic guy. And so Mukunda, understanding the mentality of Gadadhar Pandit, began to chant a verse about the mercy of Lord Krishna from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Pundarik Vijayanidhi at that time exhibited what we call the Sanchari Bhavas. He just went unconscious, practically tore all the bed sheets and was rolling around in ecstasy. And Gadadhar Pandit understood, wow, I have made a big mistake. So we waited until Pundarik Vijayanidhi came back to external consciousness, and he said, yes, the only way to rectify my mistake is if I take initiation from you. And Pundarik Vijayanidhi, knowing Gadadhar Pandit's exalted position, because she's an incarnation of Srimati Radharani, said to him, only after many lifetimes do I get a disciple like you. And so he initiated Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. So he's the spiritual master of Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. And the other story which Prabhupada mentioned there was the story of Lord Jagannath slapping Pundarik Vijayanidhi. So the story goes as follows. There's this one ceremony called Odana Shashti, every year in which they give Lord Jagannath new clothes. But during this ceremony, they gave Lord Jagannath new clothes that had not been washed or softened after they were made. Now, you know, sometimes in India you get some new cloth, and it's really starchy. In other words, stiff, like a board. And it's not so pleasant to wear those new clothes. Just like right now, these are not new clothes. They're nice and wrinkled. I love wrinkled clothes. And so that's very soft cotton. I love wrinkled cotton clothes. So anyway, so what happened is that Lord Jagannath was given these hard starched clothes, and Pundarik Vijayanidhi felt a little hateful towards the Pujari. I mean, it's transcendental. He was a little critical. This Pujari is stupid. How could he do that? So that night, he was taking rest, and as he was taking rest, Lord Jagannath appeared in his dream, and Baladeva and Subhadra appeared in his dreams. And they got very angry with him, and they started slapping him. Boom, 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 boom. You've offended this Pujari. And then that morning he woke up, got out of bed, and his cheeks were really swollen because Lord Jagannath had actually slapped him. So this is the life of a pure devotee. You have to get slapped by Lord Jagannath. I wouldn't mind that. Bara Shaka Gadadhara Pandita Goswami Teno Lakshmi Rupa Tanra Shama Keha Nahi. Gadadhar Pandit, the fourth branch, is described as an incarnation of the pleasure potency of Sri Krishna. No one, therefore, can equal him. Purport in the Gora Ganadesh Dipika, 147 to 53, 153, of course. It is stated the pleasure potency of Sri Krishna, formerly known as Vrindavaneshwari, is now personified, that's Radharani, in the form of Sri Gadadhar Pandit in the pastimes of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami has pointed out that in the shape of Lakshmi, the pleasure potency of Krishna, she was formerly very dear to the Lord as Shaima Sundara Vallabha. The same Shaima Sundara Vallabha was present in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes as Gadadhar Pandit. Formerly as Lalita Sakhi, she was always devoted to Srimati Radharani. Thus, Gadadhar Pandit is simultaneously an incarnation of Srimati Radharani and Lalita Sakhi. In the 12th chapter of this part of the Chaitanya Charitamrta, there is a description of the descendants or disciplic succession of Gadadhar Pandit. So we already described that Gadadhar Pandit was initiated by Pundarik Vijayanidhi. And so you could say, simultaneously an incarnation of Srimati Radharani and Lalita Sakhi. Well, try to understand that Lalita Sakhi is an expansion of Srimati Radharani. So here we're talking about Srimati Radharani, who appeared in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes as Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, exhibiting different moods at different times. Also, interestingly enough, Swarup Damodar Goswami is sometimes described as an incarnation of Lalita Sakhi. And we have Ramananda Roy described as an incarnation of Vishaka Sakhi. And also, sometimes, as an incarnation of Arjuna. These are very mysterious descriptions, but in many cases, it indicates a certain bhav or emotion of a devotee. But Gadadhar Pandita Goswami is certainly Shakti Tattva. He is not Jiva Tattva. So his mood and relationship to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had some similarities with Srimati Radharani's mood, because he is an appearance of Srimati Radharani, but there was a certain aspect of the bhav that was not manifest in his serving mood. And that aspect was the unsubmissive aspect of Radharani's relationship with Krishna. As we know, sometimes Radharani gets very angry with Krishna and arranges for her girlfriends to take up sticks to keep Krishna away, and sometimes Krishna has to bow down at her feet, crying submissively in order to be forgiven by her. And sometimes he has to dress up as a woman, so even Krishna does that. Sometimes he has to dress up as a woman to associate with Srimati Radharani. Sometimes he has to act as a snake charmer to associate with Srimati Radharani because of her her anger towards him. And so this anger that Srimati Radharani manifests towards Krishna is very pleasing to Krishna, because Krishna enjoys the spices, just like sometimes one enjoys chili peppers in their prasadam. So Krishna likes very spicy relationships with his Shaktis and also with his devotees. Very, very spicy. And Krishna keeps our lives very spicy too. So we see that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also had the mood of Srimati Radharani. But he did exhibit that bhav of anger sometimes towards Sri Krishna. So he fully exhibited the mood of Srimati Radharani, whereas Gadadhar Pandita Goswami, being Srimati Radharani, didn't exhibit all of the different moods of Srimati Radharani, at least externally. And Gadadhar Pandita Goswami served Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his childhood friend, first of all, and secondly, as his constant associate in Jagannath Puri. Gadadhar Pandita Goswami took the vow of Kshetra Sannyas to remain in Jagannath Puri, always serving his deity of Tota Gopinath. And when Gadadhar Pandita Goswami got old, and the deity was quite tall, he was having difficulty dressing the deity, so Tota Gopinath sat down. He's Krishna deity, and he sat down. You can see the deity today. It's a very big deity. He's a very big deity. So Krishna sat down to enable Gadadhar Pandita Goswami to dress him. And that same deity of Tota Gopinath was the deity in which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left this mortal world. So if you go to see that deity today, the pujari will show you the golden streak on the deity's thigh. And that golden streak indicates the place where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the deity and disappeared from this world. And Gadadhar Pandita Goswami also left this world, entering into the deity room. So it's a very special deity. I mean, you all have to come with us to Jagannath Puri sometime and go to these wonderful places. The Gambhira, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu resided, the Haridas Thakur Samadhi, the Siddha Bakul, where Haridas Thakur chanted near the Bakul tree, the temple of Tota Gopinath, and the temple of Lord Jagannath, if they will let you in. Of course, they didn't let me in. I tried to bribe my way in. It just didn't work, unfortunately. So, Tanra Shishya Upa Shishya Tanra Upa Shakka Matasaba Shaka Upatsakara Leka. His disciples and grand disciples are his sub-branches. To describe them all would be difficult. Rakeshra Pandita Prabhura Balapriya Vracha Ekabhave Chabhisha Praharayan Nritya. Vakeshwara Pandit was the fifth branch of the tree. He was a very dear servant of Lord Chaitanya's. He would dance with constant ecstasy for 72 hours. In the Gauragana Dashtipika, it is stated that Vakeshwara Pandit was an incarnation of Aniruddha, one of the quadruple expansions of Vishnu, Vasudeva, Sankarsana, Pradyuta, and Aniruddha, sorry. It's usually Prajuna and Aniruddha. So this list, they got it reversed. So he could dance wonderfully for 72 continuous hours. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu played in dramatic performances in the house of Srivas Pandit, Vakeshwara Pandit was one of the chief dancers, and he danced continually for that length of time. Shri Govinda Das, an Oriya devotee, that means from Orissa, of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has described the life of Vakeshwara Pandit in his book, Gaura Krishnodaya. There are many disciples of Vakeshwara Pandit in Orissa, and they are known as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, although they are Oriyas. Among these disciples are Sri Gopal Guru and his disciple, Sri Dhyana Chandra Goswami. And Gopal Guru and Jana Chandra Goswami actually wrote instructions on how to cultivate your internal life and meditate on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And that's something that's very, very, very advanced. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said about Vakeshwara Pandit that I only have one devotee like you. You were like a wing of a bird. And if I had two devotees like you, because he danced for so many hours, I would have two wings and I would be able to fly in the sky. So, Apane Mahaprabhu Gaya Nyanranricha Kale Prabodhak Charanadhari Vakeshwara Bhale. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally sang while Vakeshwara Pandit danced, and thus Vakeshwara Pandit fell at the lotus feet of the Lord and spoke as follows. Dasha Sahasra Gandharva More Deha Chandramukha Taragaya Muni Nachom Tabe Mora Sukha. Oh, Chandramukha. That means someone who has a face like the moon. This is a beautiful face. Please give me 10,000 Gandharvas. Let them sing as I dance, and then I will be greatly happy. The Gandharvas, who are the residents of Gandharva Loka, are celebrated as celestial singers. Whenever singing is needed in the celestial planets, the Gandharvas are invited to sing. The Gandharvas can sing days, and therefore Vakeshwara Pandit wanted to dance as they sang. Prabhu Bale Tumi Mora Paksha Eka Shakha Akashayudi Tamayadi Panhara Paka. Lord Chaitanya replied, here's what I just said. I have only one wing like you, but if I had another, certainly I would fly in the sky. Pandita Jagadananda Prabhura Prana Rupa Loke Kyata Teno Satyabhamara Sarupa. Pandita Jagadananda, the sixth branch of the Chaitanya tree, was celebrated as the life and soul of the Lord. He is known to have been an incarnation of Satyabhama, one of the chief queens of Lord Krishna. There are many dealings of Jagadananda Pandit with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Most importantly, he was the Lord's constant companion and especially took part in all the pastimes of the Lord in the houses of Srivas Pandit and Chandrasekhara Acharya. And having the mood of Satyabhama, he also sometimes argued with the Lord. I'll give you one example. One time, he took great pain to bring the Lord sandalwood oil for the Lord to put on his body for his massage like that. And he brought all the way to Jagannath Puri for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told his servant Govinda, I'm not going to use sandalwood oil, because if a sannyasi wears sandalwood oil, everyone will smell it and think that this is a sannyasi who's a Dari sannyasi who keeps ladies. And so he said, let him use the sandalwood oil for Lord Jagannath. So later on, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was with Jagadananda, and he said, I heard you brought some sandalwood oil. You should use this for the Lord. And Jagadananda Pandit said, who told you I got sandalwood oil? And he had the sandalwood oil in a container, clay container, which is what they had at that time with him, and he smashed the sandalwood oil on the ground. And he got so angry with Lord Caitanya, or threw a fit, and he locked himself in his room for several days, did not eat. And Lord Caitanya was very, very worried about him. And so Lord Caitanya made a trick to get him out of the room. He said, I want you to cook for me. Please come out of your room. And so he came out, and then Lord Caitanya took the prasad, and he says, boy, when you cook in an angry mood, it's really tasty. And then he ordered Jagannatha Pandit to take prasad. And Jagannatha Pandit went later, and he did take prasad. Govinda watched him do that because Lord Caitanya was actually nervous about the whole thing. Another time, Jagannatha Pandit was with Sanatana Goswami. He was sent by Lord Caitanya to Vrindavan, told by Lord Caitanya, don't criticize the residents of Vrindavan. They're in a different level of devotional service than you are. So he was with Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami had this red wrap around his head that was given to him by another sannyasi named Mukunda Saraswati. And Jagannatha Pandit asked him, who has given you that red wrap that you have around your head? And Sanatana Goswami said, Mukunda Saraswati. And Jagannatha Pandit got so angry. You have accepted something from another sannyasi other than Lord Caitanya. He took a pot and, made it seem like he was going to hit Sanatana Goswami with the pot. And Sanatana Goswami said, I did this just to see your love for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he exhibited many pastimes in which he showed his anger. And Lord Chaitanya very much enjoyed the anger of his pure devotees, which has nothing to do with the anger of the material world. It's actually anger, love anger, like prema vivarta. It is not the anger that comes from frustration in the material world. So we will end here. So that we ended in text 21 today, and 22 tomorrow we will go to. So we are going to open up the floor or the computer for questions. Let's see where we are. Allow the people to ask questions. Okay, who has a question? Okay, let me turn up the volume on this. I guess I have to turn up both of these volumes. Okay, ask your question. Who is that?
It's Rishikesh Gurudev.
Oh, Rishikesh, I recognize you now. Okay.
Yes. Yes, Gurudev, today I read the Bhagavatam. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was just like checking to see where my sound is coming from, but I can hear you clearly.
Okay. Where the Lord tells to Nalakuvar and Manigruva, and I don't know the Sanskrit, but the English says, that just like when someone sees a sun, there is no question of darkness. When as soon as someone sees a sun, all darkness is gone. Similarly,
Right.
when one has a face-to-face darshan of a sadhu, then immediately is relieved from material bondage.
That's right.
That's what the Lord says to Manigruva. How does it work, Gurudev? How does that work?
Well, the sadhu is the merciful incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so as soon as one sees the sadhu, one sees the karuna shakti of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But of course, it's not simply seen. I mean, seen is also beneficial, but one has to be perfectly respectful of the sadhu. One has to hear from the sadhu. Ashrushru shro shradana shivasadev gata ruchi shan mahat sevya vipra punya tirta the shevanat. And then one gets the full mercy. But it's a fact. Even in the physical presence of the sadhu, one experiences transcendental consciousness. When I was with Prabhupada, I experienced that. In 1971, I saw Prabhupada in Gainesville, Florida for the first time. And it was like I was in the spiritual world, just being in the physical presence of Prabhupada. So that was my experience, and I think that was the experience of just about all of everybody who was with.
So Nalakuvar and Manigruva, they were not respectful to Naradji, to Narad Deva.
No,
Still
but That was fine. When you're drunk, it's understandable. You have to be a little compassionate. They were not respectful because they were drunk. I would assume that had they not been drunk, they would have acted respectfully. But anyway, they were drunk and naked, and they were also intoxicated because they were with young girls like apsaras. So, does that answer the question?
Yes, Gurudev. Thank you.
Anyway, yeah, they weren't respectful, but the sadhu, when he curses, that curse is actually a blessing. That's the benefit of being cursed by a sadhu. The sadhu doesn't curse to make you suffer. The sadhu makes curses to bless you. So their curse actually, or the curse they got from Narada Muni, actually enabled them to see Krishna. That's nice. Okay, who else has a question? No one else.
Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances.
Oh, Rakesh, Hare Krishna.
Gurudev, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disappeared into the deity. Which deity was it?
Tota Gopinath. The Tota Gopinath is there in Jagannath Puri. And right close to that, there is a sand dune, which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thought was Govardhan Hill, and he would rush towards that sand dune. There's a sand dune means a big pile of sand. It was blown by the wind. And he was thinking it was Govardhan Hill, and he would just rush towards Govardhan Hill. Anyway, one day you all have to come with me to Jagannath Puri.
Yes, Gurudev, I'm waiting for it. I will definitely be with you.
All right.
Me too.
Gurudev, second question, Gadadhar Pandit also disappeared into the deities. Which deity was that?
Tota Gopinath. Well, he disappeared into the deity room. Yeah, he went into the deity room, and he disappeared.
Thank you, Gurudev.
The same deity. And the devotees, we are allowed, we Westerners. So the Westerners are allowed to, I'd have to dress up like an old Hindu lady to be able to go in the temple of Lord Jagannath.
That will be interesting, Gurudev.
Actually, one of my godbrothers, Bhakta Tirthamar, is dressed up as a Hindu to go into Lord Jagannath's temple, and he snuck in and he saw Lord Jagannath. And then he went in the second time, and they caught him, and he was running, and he had to jump over the wall to get away from the dacoits. But as far as the temple of Tota Gopinath, they love ISKCON devotees there. You can go to see that temple anytime and take darshan and actually have a kirtan in front of the deities. We had many kirtans in front of the deities there, the Tota Gopinath temple. Very amazing temple. Very, very amazing. You have to go there. I'm actually missing India, but somehow or other, maybe this year, I will go to India.
I will follow you, Gurudev. I will come, whenever you go, I will be there.
Yeah, but you're in Australia. You're not allowed to leave Australia.
Yes, that is true. But are you going? Okay, we'll figure it out.
Actually, everybody in Australia is not allowed to leave Australia, because if you come back, even if you're a citizen, they make you pay thousands and thousands of dollars to stay in government housing while you're in their quarantine.
That's true,
So
Gurudev.
even as a citizen, you're not supposed to leave or go out. But as America, we're the land of the free, home of the brave. So I can leave.
In America, they don't even test it, Gurudev. Adidev went.
Yeah.
No one. They don't even show. You don't have to even show that you are negative before boarding the plane. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, because everyone's transcendental. India is so transcendental. Even the COVID virus is transcendental in India. If you don't want to get COVID in India, you just have to bribe the virus. You don't even have to wear a mask. Just have to give the virus 10,000 rupees and you're free, you know. Things function differently in India. I mean, for example, we had a meeting this morning. Anyway, it was an interesting meeting with 8 of us. 4 of us were from the United States, and 4 of us were from India. And the people from India were 15 minutes late, and the people from the United States were on time. And we were all getting frustrated. And then the people from India thought this is just natural, because if you show up on time, it's very disrespectful.
It's true. Indians don't have any sense of time.
Well, they do. They have a delayed sense of time. It's a delay. So it's called Indian Standard Time, just like delayed time. One of my godbrother was preaching in India, and he's very famous. He was always 2 hours late for a lecture. But Prabhupada, on the other hand, was very punctual. There's that story that the devotees had an appointment with one of the prime ministers of India, not Indira Gandhi, but there was another prime minister. I forget the name right now. And this prime minister was very punctual, and the devotees showed up late, and the prime minister didn't have time to see them. And Prabhupada got very angry at the devotees. Every time I've been with Prabhupada, he's been super punctual. Super punctual. Prabhupada, we would start his darshans at night at a particular time. He would end them at night at a particular time. He would arrive he would go for his morning walk like clockwork at a certain time. He'd come back from his morning walk exactly when the deities were supposed to be greeted in the morning. Prabhupada would come back. I remember being with Prabhupada, come back in the car from the morning walk into the temple, and that's exactly when the conch shells would blow, the curtains would open. Everything was just so like clockwork with Prabhupada. You could actually tell the time by watching Prabhupada. And that's how he accomplished so much. I mean, because he's a pure devotee also. But one reason he was able to accomplish so much, because he was very much regulated. He always consulted his watch. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, same thing. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he had a pocket watch. And it's described that Bhakti Vinod Thakur regulated the deity worship in Jagannath Puri, because he regulated it to the minute or to the second. So we find in our sampradaya, amongst the preachers, they were extremely regulated. In the 6 Goswamis, it's described like that. They were regulated in their lives. In other words, counting the japa, doing, as far as they're eating, they would eat in a very regulated fashion. So this regulation of the senses, the regulation of one's life, is actually part of Vaishnava culture. I mean, we may joke about Indian culture, but Vaishnava culture is a very, very regulated, time-bound culture. And we see that in our founder Acharya. So anyway, who else has a question?
Please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj. All
Yes,
goes to Prabhupada.
Mr. Govinda. So, all right, so what's up?
Maharaj, a philosophical question on you have explained about Bhakrishwar Pandit briefly, very nicely.
Yeah.
I always wonder that Bhakrishwar Pandit, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained that relinquish of offensive nature in details. He gave 8 slokas in Jagannath Puri when a Brahmana went to see him complain against Nityananda Prabhu.
Yeah.
So one of the sloka he says, "Kata fute jei mukhe sei mukhe jai, paya kata fute leki skande bahirai." If the thorn poked on the toes, you cannot pull it out from the shoulder. It has to be pull out from the same spot it went in.
Right.
Then my question is, Devananda Pandit, who committed offense to Srivas, but he was delivered by Bakrishwar Pandit.
No. He got
Or not
Caitanya
delivered,
Mahaprabhu.
but at least
Wait. You didn't finish the story. Because he served Rakeshwara Pandit, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed him to go to Srivas Thakur. That's the whole story.
but he experienced ecstasy serving Bakrishwar Pandit.
What he did is he protected Rakeshwara Pandit as Rakeshwara Pandit was dancing.
Yes.
And he was ecstatic because he was, yes. But the actual forgiveness came when he went back to Srivas Thakur and begged for forgiveness. He got mercy from Rakeshwara Pandit by serving him. Then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed him to go to Srivas Thakur, and then he got completely forgiven.
Because the Maharaj mentality in a practical level, some devotee may develop. I'm not saying they are. That, oh, you know what, I don't like that Maharaj. I'll just go with, with my bhajan, with my chanting, and I like who I like. I will hang around with them. I don't care whom I offended. It's not important.
Well, they have to go, whoever you offend, whoever someone offends, they have to go to that person and beg forgiveness. Or else they'll lose a taste for hearing and chanting at the very least. There's a temple of Rakeshwara Pandit in Radhakund, Radhakanta temple in Radhakund. That's a temple of Rakeshwara Pandit. And it's right near, someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's right near our Gopal Mandir. Champaka, is that right? She's on there, she knows Radhakunda.
Yes, that's correct.
Right near, it's like right across from our Gopal Mandir.
Yeah, it's just opposite it. Yeah.
At the Ghat, right at the Ghat to Radhakund, yeah. That's the temple of Radhakanta at Radhakund. And I am going to Radhakund tomorrow. I wish.
Maharaj, one more question can I ask?
Yes. If you ask any more questions, I'll become ecstatic and start rolling on the ground, remembering Radhakund.
That'll be great.
And
I'll drive tonight. Meet you there tomorrow.
Rudiya gira pulaka nichitam vapukata tava nama grahane bhavishyati. Okay, so what's one more question and then that's it.
Maharaj, it appears like Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a whole song about Gaur Gadadhar. He established temples. Yes. And Gaura Kesava Prabhu, your godbrother, who used to be our main deity kind of a guide or mentor, he said that when Prabhupada went to Australia, there is actually the deity you probably heard. It was a Gaur Gadadhar, Prabhupada said, but then they changed it. Now it's Gaur Nitai, or they installed Nityananda Prabhu. I asked him, can you give details? He said, I cannot trace it. I was there installing the deity. Prabhupada said, this is not Gaur Nityananda, this is Gaur Gadadhar. Of course, in ISKCON, we don't have Gaur Gadadhar much. Why not? Yeah. I'm just asking you. You are our authority.
Why not? Because we need the mercy of Lord Nityananda. That's why. Gaur Gadadhar worship is a very elevated worship. We need the mercy of Lord Nityananda. Hey no nitai vinay vai Radha Krishna poite nai. Right?
Yes.
You know Bengali, you're Bengali. So without the mercy of Lord Nityananda, no one can understand Radha and Krishna. So is Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So that's why. I mean, we could, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he worshiped Gaur Gadadhar. That's a fact. And in many of the Gaudiya Mas, they worship Gaur Gadadhar. But we need Lord Nityananda. Hey no nitai vinay Radha Krishna poite nai.
Are you Nityananda Bhakta or Gadadhar Bhakta? I'm just just curious one. I know you cannot
I'm
say
not a
in
bhakta.
public.
I'm a bhukta.
You are too humble,
Yeah,
Maharaj.
if I was a bhakta, I would be happy. I would be always happy. Nitai more korasuki ami boro duki. You know?
Yes.
Lord Nityananda, you're always happy. I am most unhappy. I'm not
Maharaj,
a bhakta. I'm a Bogaishvarya Prasaktanam Tayaya Prityasetasam Vyavasayatmakad Budhir Samado Nabadhiyate. That's me.
that's the symptom of a great personality. They feel that way. That's
It's
true.
also the symptom of a fallen rascal who's honest. Anyway, enough fun. So, all right, so we'll see everybody tomorrow evening. All glories to His divine grace.